Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Jyotirmaya Yoga. We focus on spirituality, our journey to self realization. Please subscribe for the mystical meanings of the scriptures and enjoying daily satsang with us. We are currently exploring the book The Art of Positive Feeling by worshipful Swami Jyotirmayananda Maharaj, my Guruji, and narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. Today we will be touching on the topic asteya and aparigraha, meaning non-stealing and non-covetousness. In Raja Yoga, asteya and aparigraha are two of the five great yamas or ethical restraints. Asteya implies freedom from desiring, misappropriating, or stealing the possessions of others, and aparigraha is non covetousness. In the Old Testament of the Bible, there appears as the eighth and the last of the great Ten Commandments: Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet. Asteya and aparigraha, non stealing and non covetousness, are closely related sister virtues which are both directed towards the removal of greed. The urge to steal results from a blend of greed, selfishness, and lack of control over the senses. Afflicted with the illusion that happiness comes from objects, one can be overwhelmed by the urge to get for himself those things which seem to be giving happiness to others. A thief steals because he feels that he cannot be happy without the object he craves, and his mind lacks the patience to earn it in a righteous way. His mind may at first tell him, "You can get those things by working for them." But then his mind quickly changes its perspective and says, "Why should you work? Why not just enter into a crowd and pick up a pocket or two? You can then sneak into a house showing a little gun and a masked face and get what you want. Who is going to catch you?" The mind plays dirty tricks. The greedy mind does not see the darker implications of that action. It does not see who will get hurt or what others will feel if they have lost things which they have loved or worked hard for. Due to intense selfishness, the mind behaves like a vulture and promotes indulgence in falsehood. If a person is dominated by a highly intense and perverted form of greed, he chooses this path of steya or stealing. On the other hand, if the greed is more moderate, a person tends towards parigraha or covetousness. Adapting methods that are normally considered righteous, he continues to crave objects and accumulates more and more of them, hoarding them beyond his needs. Such a person is not stealing from others nor misappropriating what they already possess. He simply is obsessed with the idea, if I have more and more, I will be happier. Afflicted by covetousness, you strive incessantly to multiply your possessions. Instead of having two pairs of shoes, you have 50 pairs. Instead of having a few sweaters, you have 100 sweaters. As a result, all year long you have to watch over your things to see that they don't get mildewed or moth eaten. In other words, protect them. After you lose all the possessions that you have acquired and become tied to a place, tied to objects, and you are afraid to lose them. And if you lose them, you lose your mind. You are a constant caretaker of things that you are not going to use, things which simply become a source of endless headache for you. Further, there is a great illusion involved in the idea that by acquiring more and more possessions, you will become secure and comfortable. It is like chasing a mirage in order to quench your thirst. That will never materialize. If you were to study your life and the lives of people around you, you would realize that more doesn't necessarily mean being happier. A person who is poor thinks that if only he had sufficient money in his hands, he would be happy. But the moment he becomes richer, he wants to have more and more and never feels contented. Normally, as wealth increases, discontent increases in direct proportion also, unless you have developed a spiritual insight. From the social point of view, a person who develops covetousness disturbs the harmony and economic balance of society. Why should one person hoard so many more things than he can use when those things could have been utilized by others? It is unethical that many are deprived of the conveniences of life while others hoard far beyond any reasonable need. Such hoarding negates the fact that some people that the same life is flowing in all, the same consciousness, the same heartbeat. It is a form of violence in a way. If you are hurting others by developing exaggerated greed and causing disbalance and disharmony in society. On the other hand, if people were infused with the virtue of non covetousness, the ideal would be simple living and high thinking. The ideal would be to go after the greater treasures of life, the spiritual values, and then material wealth will become subservient to spiritual wealth. In a more cultured and elevated society, there would be an entirely different kind of greed. Greed for the attainment of spiritual values. One would crave for more and more sincerity, more mental peace, more goodness, more gentleness, and more control of mind. People would be extremely discontented with their psychological and spiritual limitations and hanker to become better and better every day. So that greed is not greed at all, is it? It is called aspiration, where we strive to make ourselves better. The more, the better. If this ideal were practiced, there would be peace in the individual who practices it, and he would radiate and promote happiness and peace in the environment around him also. This would lead to a higher level of culture for the individual as well as the society. When you are greedy, your will becomes weak. As a result of this weakness, you may not be able to get to the very object that you greedily desire. Or if you do get it, they will become a source of pain. There is a strange law operating in the divine plan. If you do not deserve an object towards which you have developed greed, that object will repel you. Even if you succeed in possessing it, that object will be painful because it will create many mental complexes. Thus, you will not be really happy if you get an object because of greed. On the other hand, if you do not have greed, then all the objects that you need in your spiritual evolution will come to you automatically. An interesting parable is told to illustrate this point. A devotee was practicing meditation and he had a strange vision when he invoked goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity and wealth. The goddess, whom he expected to appear before him in a luminous and radiant form, appeared with her forehead badly bruised and her feet were terribly sore. The devotee, seeing Lakshmi Devi in this strange condition, asked, "O goddess, how is this even possible? How can you, who are the giver of prosperity to all, have your forehead bruised and your feet swollen and sore?" The goddess replied, "O devotee, I will answer your question and reveal to you a great secret. There are so many worldly minded people who crave for me and pursue me, and yet they do not deserve me. And I have to go on kicking them from morning till night. Imagine how much my feet hurt because I must go on doing that day after day. And then there are some rare souls who have truly renounced greed and who tread the path of spirituality. They are so dispassionate that they don't want me at all. In the divine plan, however, they must have some of my wealth in order to help mankind. So I go to their doors and, adopting the Eastern method, I repeatedly bow and strike my head against the thresholds in order to persuade them to accept me. This goes on day after day, so that now my forehead has become terribly bruised. The, this parable shows that if you are devoid of greed, you attract the goddess of prosperity who wants to bestow her blessings. On the other hand, if you go after objects through greed, then the goddess of prosperity goes on kicking you, as it were. Crave wealth, and wealth will renounce you. Renounce craving, and all the wealth of the world will pursue you. With this, we conclude our satsang for today, and I will see you in tomorrow's satsang, where we will continue this beautiful journey about asteya, aparigraha, non covetousness, stealing, and the effect it has due to greed. Hari Om Tat Sat.